All right, let's talk about Superman. You know, the guy in the red cape who can basically do anything. The guy who had the pretty sweet, awesome, amazing trailer that dropped earlier today. You know, the guy who can fly faster than the speed of sound. He can melt stuff with laser eyes. He can lift entire buildings with one hand, even though I'm using two. He is a walking power fantasy. And yet, here's the kicker. He doesn't use any of it for himself. Like, ever. And that's wild, because if we're honest with ourselves, we know exactly what we'd do if we had his powers, and it's not saving kittens from trees. Let's not kid ourselves. Some of us would go full supervillain within 5 minutes of discovering that we could just fly. You think you wouldn't? Come on. You'd be cutting people off in traffic, flipping their cars with your pinky finger, or maybe you'd be using your X-ray vision to cheat on your finals. And don't even pretend that you wouldn't accidentally become a billionaire overnight. At the very least, you would finally tell your annoying coworker what's on your mind and maybe even toss their desk into the parking lot, just, for good measure. But Superman, he doesn't do any of that. He's got all this power and he uses it to help people, not himself. He doesn't exploit his strength, his invulnerability, or his godlike abilities to make life easier or even more comfortable for himself. He could absolutely rule the world, but instead he humbly works as Clark Kent, a nerdy reporter who gets shoved around by his boss. But why? Because Superman is a hero not just in his actions, but in his character. And that's what we love about him. He's a guy who chooses to do the right thing when no one could stop him if he didn't. Think about that. And that's a big reason why we admire him. It's not just his flashy powers. It's the restraint that he exercises that makes him so stinking cool.
I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone.
Superman embodies self-control, humility, and sacrifice, which are the kind of qualities that we wish we had, but we know we don't, not with that power. He represents something greater, and whether we realize it or not, we're drawn to that because it points to a truth that we're wired to recognize. We were created to worship a hero like that. Enter Jesus. I know, I'm sorry, I had to do it, but I'm bringing Jesus in. Enter Jesus. Now hear me out though, before you leave. This isn't just Sunday school stuff. Jesus had more power than Superman could have ever dreamed of. He literally spoke the universe into existence. He could have zapped the Pharisees with a word, or taken over the Roman Empire with the snap of his fingers, or turned stone into bread, or cast himself off the Temple Mount and had legions of angels come to his rescue, but he didn't. Instead, he washed people's feet. He hung out with the outcasts, and he let himself be crucified. And why did he do all that? Because he wasn't here for personal gain. He was here to save us. His power was always about serving others, not himself. And that's the ultimate hero. Superman is great, don't get me wrong. You can tell, I love Superman. But Jesus is the real deal. When we look at Superman, we admire the strength, the sacrifice, and the selflessness. But those things resonate with us because deep down, we were designed to long for the true hero who perfectly embodies them. Superman gives us a glimpse of what that looks like, but only a glimpse. The full picture, that's Jesus. So yeah, Superman's cool and all, but the real reason we like him, he reminds us of the one we're really looking for.